All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us again for another one of our spring webinar series. I'm so excited to have Ashley Baker from Eanes ISD, and she's in Texas, and she has been using Bulb and doing some really great things with her students, and I'm so excited for her to kind of share her classroom experience with you and give you guys some great tips today. So I'm actually going to hand it off to Ashley and just give you a few minutes to chat.
Yeah, so I actually started using Bulb about 2 years ago now. I teach a class called Mentorship where students get to work in a career field and basically shadow a professional in a career field that they are interested in pursuing in the future. And through that, they have log sheets. They do various assignments over workplace ethics. They will write a resume. They do an all-purpose cover letter. They do a lot of work that they can take with them, which I think is really valuable. And originally, the teacher who had my position prior to me taking it over was having them use binders to keep all of their work, which is great. But I felt like in our digital world that there was something that could be used that would better serve them, that they would get to take. And, what I found was most students were leaving those big chunky binders behind, and I got stuck with 150 binders I had to do something with. So I talked with a fellow colleague who's kind of a tech expert, Lisa Johnson, here at our school, and she recommended Bulb. And we actually had a student the year before I took over who used Bulb. And so we were able to talk with her and kind of glean some insight. And then I kind of played with it a bit and just familiarized myself with it, which, by the way, it is extremely user-friendly. I wouldn't necessarily classify myself as a tech expert by any means. I can manage things pretty well once I've got it figured out. But for me, most of the time, the hardest part is, getting the hang of things. And that was something I really liked about Bulb. And I think that's something my students really like too, is that they can jump in and it's like, oh, okay, where did she say the upload button was? And look at the screen and it's right there. I mean, it's super, super easy to navigate. So I had my students, basically, I gave them an outline of all of the assignments from the semester and whatnot that they needed to include in their portfolio. And the first semester I did it, I was pretty, I had everything pretty well outlined for them, I would say, just because I didn't really know what some of the pitfalls might be or what I would say that they wouldn't understand or so on. And like I said, because Bulb was is super user friendly, it was like a piece of cake. And so I thought, okay, I need to let them loose a little bit here. And so the second semester I had them do it, which is about a year ago now. They got really creative and they started kind of creating their own collections. And if you've never used Bulb, the way I've used it, which has been really helpful, they have, and I talked with my students about this too, they have what are called collections and pages. And that's what I use most often. And I tell my students to think of it like the binder, where you have kind of dividers in between your binder, and those are your collections. And then your individual pages are just like an individual page. They kind of fit in certain collections. And so I went from basically telling students what collections they needed to have to opening it up and saying, whatever you'd like to include is up to you, however you want to name it. They ended up adding pictures to it. And I'm not super techie, but I didn't even know that was an option. And they found it immediately. And so they added pictures to their collections, which has been really useful for students. Like I have a couple in architecture right now. And so they have some screenshots of blueprints and things they're working on. And they uploaded those to one of their sections that they titled Career Specifics. So I think what's nice is that they can take their portfolio with them. The initial student who started doing this that I had mentioned, we kind of gleaned insight from, she actually took it with her to Texas Tech, and now she's at the University of Texas, and she's continued using it and adding to it. And that's what I have found with my students as well, all across the board. I have a student I just talked with about a week ago who's in interior design, and she is at FITM in California, and she's adding to it. I had a student in education. We're going to education last year, and she was actually able to get one of her intro to education classes waived because she was able to show all of her work she had done, which basically were the equivalent to the field experience hours she would have been getting in that intro to education class. She got to jump to 2 and go straight into philosophy of education and some other things. So aside from getting to use it for career-related resources and whatnot, it benefited her in the sense that she actually got to exempt a class.
Yeah.
So
those are cool. I like those different case studies for how the students are using it. And I think that's what gets me excited when I'm seeing students that are using it in high school and then owning that portfolio as the piece. It's them telling their story, and they're realizing the importance of when it goes to, college and career, and being able to use that as a lifelong tool. It's something that they're really taking and making the most of beyond that. So that's pretty cool. So I love that you kind of found that the students started to make those portfolios their own and giving them some freedom to be able to choose the kind of organization and the kinds of things that they want to put in with some parameters of those requirements. Tell me a little bit about what's kind of your workflow in terms of like your checkpoints in Bulb. Like how often do you have them turn them in, and how do you have them turn them in, and like what is some of that in terms of like daily class flow for you?
Yeah, so this is actually the first semester where instead of having kids turn assignments into like Google Classroom or whatnot, which I've done in the past, or even turnitin.com, I had them basically go straight to Bulb, and I have their Bulb links on a spreadsheet, but I also, which is like right next to my grading spreadsheet, so that's really nice, but I also have them in groups in Bulb, which is another awesome feature. So they're grouped, and I have them grouped based on class. So I have them all loaded in there, and then that's how I've been able to go and grade assignments, which has been, really efficient. And I feel like for them, it's not something that like they're just loading for the sake of loading at the end of the semester. And it's also been really nice because we have a class link where they can go in and they can view and kind of get some ideas from other Bulb users that are in their same course. So if they didn't know how to, classify something, or they wanted to find a unique way to, kind of organize their collection, something like that, they've got their peers who are in the exact same boat that they can look to for guidance or ideas, suggestions, and so on.
Oh, I love that ability to have those look at each other's work and kind of see the different experiences, learn about the different careers, as well as ideas of how to present their stuff. That your student might be learning for, design student or whatever it is. That's
right.
Okay, that is so. Now that you've been using Bulb for a little bit and you kind of have a little bit of experience, do you have any like tips? Like if a teacher was just getting started, is there something that would be helpful for him to introduce Bulb, or anything that you think would be like, oh, if I would have known this in the beginning, this was something that would be really helpful, things like that?
Yes. So like I said before, I played with it quite a bit. I created my own portfolio. I walked through the steps that I was going to have them walk through. So I kind of knew where they may catch a snag, or they may not necessarily understand what I was wanting or how something was working. And I know one of the big things from my perspective in terms of being able to view a portfolio and then of course grade it, which, real world application would be getting to share their portfolio, which I also have had students do. I got several students who had internships this summer because they were able to share their portfolios with the professionals in the industry as basically documentation that, I am dedicated, here's what I've been doing, here's my work, here are examples. So that's been awesome too. But one of the things I found pretty early on is that there's a little blue arrow once you go in and create a collection and then create a page that is essentially, it is your publish button. And if they don't publish it, the only person who can see it is the student who created it. Mm-hmm. So we figured that out. And then, I mean, as I mentioned, Bria and I were kind of talking before, we went live here, and one of the pitfalls of our school district's new web filtering system is that Google Chrome is one of the browsers that works best for things like Google Hangouts and even for Bulb app. When I use Safari on my Mac to try to view certain things on Bulb, our web filtering system just does some funky things. So I would suggest, giving it a test run and making sure that you can see things and figure out if you kind of have some of those issues that are, of course, separate from Bulb. But it was just a piece that I kind of found early on, again, just in playing with it. Other tips, aside from the publishing, is they have options to organize it. You can organize portfolios that a student creates in kind of a list format, or in a tile view. And students at first weren't quite sure what that was. And it's a super simple little, like, you click on it, you can figure it out immediately. It just changes the view of your screen. But those were all just little things that I was able to say, hey, this is what this is. This is what it'll do for you. Try and think of other, I mean, like I said at the beginning, Bulb, it's just so user-friendly. You can change backgrounds. I know the first time I used it, I didn't have students going through and adding pictures to, or adding a cover photo to their portfolios. Yeah. And that was something that was pretty cool, because they took a picture of themselves, and then were able to use that as their profile picture. But you can add a cover photo too. And so a lot of them chose kind of stock photos that, demonstrated the field that they were studying. So if I had a student studying medicine, I can think of one off the top of my head who chose a fun little background that was like the old, what's the word I'm looking for? Like nurse symbol. Another student who has a great portfolio, and hers, she actually used a picture of her blueprints. She was one of the others who used another set of blueprints she created from her project.
Oh, I think you froze on us for a second. Are you there, Ashley? Are you there? All right, well, I think we're going to wrap up. Learned a lot from Ashley and all the great opportunities that our students have had using Bulb, and understanding and exploring these different careers, and then using it as a tool for internships. Are you there? Oh, are you back? I think you froze for a second. Are you back?
Am I back?
You are. You're there. You're there. That's what we love about technology, right? But
yes.
No, I think those are great. I think those are great tips. And one of the things that I love is that as students dig in and that they're finding and making it their own, that they're adding pictures, and they can bring in documents and web, and they can really bring in a very multimedia experience that really expresses the different fields that they're into and their passions and things like that. And so, and I just love that your kids are exploring different careers, and then within their exploration, this tool they're using, then they're going out and seeking opportunities, internships, and using it in college and that. And I think that's super exciting. So what a cool class that you're doing, and a great opportunity for those students, and leading them and giving them some really a lifelong tool of portfolio. And thank you so much for your time, Ashley. Appreciate you. And I hope you have a great rest of your afternoon.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, take care.
You too.
Bye.